courtroom. The jury is not in the courtroom yet. You see Judge Summer standing just for a bit there. So I'll cut you off, Kelly, if the jury enters and/or testimony begins. But your thoughts at this point in the trial? There's been a lot of talk of, oh, Alec Baldwin's going to take the stand because he's Alec Baldwin. He wants to be heard. I don't know if it's a very good idea. He's already done interviews, multiple interviews. His point of view is already out there. Would you risk throwing him up there? Because to me, it looks like this is a case the defense can absolutely win. But you put a client on the stand, and boy, anything can happen.
It's going to be Baldwin's choice. So the attorney can advise him and say whether he thinks it's a good idea to take the stand, but ultimately it's going to be his decision. But Ted, you bring up a really good point. So if he does decide to take the witness stand, which is very, very dicey, you're rolling the dice on that, then the state can ask him, try to impeach him by asking him questions about other stuff that he said during a lot of videos. Usually you tell your client, don't talk to anyone, don't talk to the press. However, he's done a lot of media outlets and said, from his point of view, the fact that he did not pull the trigger. So I could see definitely his attorney advising him, do not take the witness stand because the state has the burden and they have to prove every single element of the crime. So I don't believe that he'll take the stand.
Still don't have any audio from the courtroom because, of course, the jury's not in yet. So, Jeff, does it matter if he pulled the trigger or not? Alec Baldwin said, no, I would never pull the trigger and point the gun at somebody. But in the openings for the defense, they said, you know what? Actors pull the trigger on movie sets all the time. Does that matter?
No, I think when you if you have a competent weapons armorer, and or let's say a prop gun armor, and they know what they're doing, they're gonna, if I were to bring a revolver to Alec on a set, and I was gonna have him have one loaded with dummy rounds, I would demonstrate to him visibly by pulling the trigger 8 times in front of him to show that it couldn't go off. At that point, when I've handed him the gun, he and the director of photography and the director are all going to start to explore what they're going to do in a rehearsal scene. And the point of the rehearsal scene, sometimes you use a live gun because you've got a low light situation. You really want to see what it looks like. It's going to look a lot different with a plastic gun. You really want to see if that gun comes out and you're going to see it. Halyna Hutchins was very, very tight in this shot, and I can understand why she would want to see an actual revolver in this shot. And it's very interesting to me that that they had this chance to. I'm sorry, I've lost my train of thought there. I apologize.
That's all right. Hey, I got a question for you. Do you have actors that some of them, yes, I want a full demonstration. George Clooney has said, I always look at every gun and I inspect it myself. And Alec Baldwin says over his career, he doesn't because he trusts the people around him. He says, I'm not going to look at it. They looked at it. Is that what you experienced? Some do, some don't?
Absolutely. I mean, once you establish that you're a competent weapons master. Mr. Carpenter even said it in his state testimony in the earlier trial. He said that, once he's shown the gun and he's proven it to be safe to at least 2 people on the set, if the actor wants to look at the gun and do more with it, he can, if you have time to do that. There's situations with different types of weapons that it would be almost impossible to do that with. And so that actors do have to trust you to a certain level that you're going to bring a gun to the set and you're going to be able to prove that it's safe to everybody on the set.
Kelly, there was a child actor in this movie. The plot of the movie Rust was the grandfather, Alec Baldwin, Harlan Rust, was on the run with his grandson who was accused of killing a farmer. If the boy had a gun in his hand and accidentally shot and killed someone on set, would this prosecution go after a child actor? At what point does the actor have responsibility? Because clearly there are situations where you wouldn't want any responsibility on an actor or actress on a movie set, sometimes because of age or just lots of variables.
actors play roles and they pretend to be someone. So the defense's argument is that Baldwin was playing a role, that he was an actor and he had the gun, even if it was him. Now, in regards to a young child, if that potentially happened, the state has the burden to bring the case, and so they would need to prove every single element of the crime like they do in this matter to make sure that what they allege actually happened. Now, in regards to a child, there are certain people, the child is playing a role in the movie, and there are certain people that have certain other roles to make sure that the gun is safe. And in the Baldwin case, it was said cold gun, which means that there was no ammunitions in the gun, and 2 people checked it. And so the argument is not the actor's role to do that or to do a safety check, and that is the people that are doing that, such as the armor person and the AD. Especially in this case is very, very interesting. The 911 call, I think that is very compelling evidence for the defendant, where in fact a script supervisor, it said that the AD did not do their job, and because of that, that's the reason why, and that creates reasonable doubt potentially in the jury, and I think that's a really strong argument for the defense in this case.
Another idea.
Yeah, it's interesting that Assistant Director David Halls is not on the prosecution's witness list, but he is on the defense witness list. In fact, in the opening statements, the defense promised that David Halls would come up and tell them that it was his error, in part, that after Hannah Gutierrez loaded that live round, he did not double check, which is part of his job. That's why he pled guilty. And we saw him so emotional during the Hannah Gutierrez trial. While we do this, they're still waiting to call in the jury. Not sure if there's a juror delay. They were supposed to report to the courthouse at 8:30, but you know how it goes. Oh, they're just standing now. Perfect. Let's get a break in here. When we come back, day 2 of testimony in the case of New Mexico versus Alec Baldwin.
A-list actor Alec Baldwin is cast in the real-life role he never wanted.
I try and cock the gun, the gun goes off.
Criminal defendant.
His lack of gun safety is something that he's going to have to answer for.
We heard that this was a toxic set.
One more.
It's not his fault. He did nothing wrong.
Is there an actor's exemption from liability when they're handling a deadly firearm?
The Alec Baldwin manslaughter trial. Live coverage today, only on Court TV.
I'm Matt Johnson in Santa Fe, New Mexico, covering the Alec Baldwin manslaughter trial. This is Court TV, your front row seat to justice.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Ted Rollins outside the Santa Fe County Courthouse in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where day 2 of testimony is just about to get underway in the case against Alec Baldwin. The first witness just took the stand, Marissa Popple. She's a crime scene tech from the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Department. Let's go in.
Left off yesterday is ultimately that firearm was destroyed in the testing. Fair?
Not destroyed, but broken.
Yeah, you know, the word broken, you know, that I think I heard you use yesterday, it's fair to say that the firearm can't be put back in the original condition that it was in at the time of the incident. Is that fair?
I believe it could be put back together with replaced parts, but as far as, in my terms, destroyed meaning no longer in existence, it is not the case.
Right. No, of course. The gun and its broken parts still exist, right?
Yes.
But as being part of the investigation and entrusted with the evidence in this case, the gun will never be in exactly the same condition that it was in on October 21st. Fair?
Yes.
Then I want to talk to you now about the ammunition piece of this. And the investigation into the source of the lethal bullet in this case led you to executing a search warrant at Seth Kenney's prop house, right?
Yes.
And you knew that he had provided star-line brass, silver ammunition to the set, correct?
Yes.
What you were investigating at that time was whether it was star-line brass, silver, and only dummies, or if it was Starline brass, silver, and he also had live ammunition at his prop house, correct?
Yes.
And you did know that Seth Kenny kept live ammunition at his prop house, correct?
I believe at that time we were looking for live ammunition, yes.
Right, but you were aware of whether you found the exact correct live ammunition that matched perfectly the live ammunition on the movie set. You did ultimately recover some live ammunition, and you had probable cause to get a search warrant, right?
Yes.
And did that concern you that at a prop house that's sending out ammunition for movie sets, that there was both live ammunition and dummy rounds?
Yes.
So I want to take a step back for a second. When you go out to collect evidence on a day like October 21st, 2021, you bring with you your Nikon camera, right?
Yes.
You have gloves with you, right?
Yes.
And in a perfect world, you're trying to get to the evidence and the state of the evidence as quickly as possible. Fair?
Yes.
And so you did respond to this scene, and the first item that you collected that ended up broken was the prop gun, right?
Yes.
And when you got there, you knew that someone had touched it without gloves on, right?
Yes.
You knew that when somebody collected it, they didn't take a photo, right?
Yes.
But you did take that into evidence, and that was sort of the first item in this case that you were collecting and entrusted to keep vouchered and maintained for the course of this investigation. Is that fair?
Yes.
And it was a critical piece of evidence. Isn't that true?
Yes.
And so as you continue after that moment into the scene, you're looking for additional evidence. Fair?
Yes.
And physical evidence is critical evidence in an investigation, right?
Yes.
Because, witnesses and their memories can change. Witnesses can say one thing one day and another day, but physical evidence pretty much stays the same, right?
I'm just objecting to a compound question.
Physical evidence stays the same, right?
Yes.
And you logged all the evidence you collected in this case?
Yes.
And all the evidence collected by law enforcement in this case was ultimately logged by you?
Yes.
And by logging it, you also make it available for the defense so that we have visibility into what in fact you collected.
Yes.
And one way you figure out as you're going through a scene what evidence is relevant is you can talk to your fellow officers, right?
Yes.
You can talk to witnesses, right?
I do not. As part of I'm not an investigator, I'm a technician. So my concern is with the physical evidence. I don't do any of the interviews.
No, I know you don't do formal interviews, but, in this case, you did talk to Seth Kenny, right? You're not forbidden to speak to somebody who's at a scene?
No, I do believe we had some casual conversations, yes.
Well, but there are times where a witness could say in your presence, hey, that glove is very important. And they would say it to you and Corporal Hancock, and you would
I
know.
object to the hypothetical.
Overruled.
As I was saying, you and Corporal Hancock could be at a scene, and somebody could say, hey, that glove was used, and you, as a technician, would say, okay, that witness is pointing out that glove, that could be important. I'm going to note that, and once I confer with Corporal Hancock, potentially take that into custody to take an inventory.
Yes, okay. That's something that could happen, yes.
And the other thing that you do is, and you talked about this a little bit on your direct, which is you can learn information and decide what to forensically test. Fair?
Yes.
So in this case, for example, Mr. Baldwin's clothes had red on them, and you tested it for blood, right?
Yes.
And it turned out it was movie set blood, right?
Yes.
Meaning it wasn't actually blood.
Correct.
Okay. So as you continue through the scene, you get to the prop cart, and you find the shell casing, and I thought this was on just a moment ago.
All right, Joe, come on. They need to fix something.
You're doing what to the document?
Yeah, these are
This in the way. It was up there. It was up there that you had a problem.
And I'm putting State's Exhibit 29.
I'm just a minute, Mr. Spiro. I'm wondering if you're trying to figure this out right now.
Thank you very much. Thank you both. And I'm showing you Exhibit 29, and in a moment I'll show you Exhibit 28. And this is the shell casing that you recovered in this case that housed the lethal projectile, correct?
Yes.
And so, and in fact, you were able to then recover the actual bullet piece of the ammunition because you learned from Mr. Baldwin that it was at the hospital with Mr. Souza, right?
Yes.
And so you were then able to go to the hospital, and we heard from that officer, and collect the other piece of the ammunition, correct?
Yes.
And that's an example, right, of learning something from a witness and making a decision based on it, right?
Yes.
Okay. And as to the prop gun, because you learned from Mr. Baldwin that he just manipulated the hammer, you didn't test the trigger of the firearm, correct?
I'm sorry, you're asking if I myself tested the
trigger? Yeah.
I'm not qualified to do that, so it was not completed by myself.
Well, fair to say that because you learned that from Mr. Baldwin, it impacted the way that you evaluated the evidence in this
I
case.
object to the form of question. Can we approach?
All right, sidebar. Let's slip in a commercial break and back with more live testimony from Santa Fe, New Mexico, right after this. Welcome back to Santa Fe, New Mexico. Outside the courthouse here, I'm Ted Rollins. We are going to pick up our coverage right where we left off after that sidebar broke up. Marissa Popple is this crime scene tech on the stand, cross-examination. Let's go in.
Page 3, lines 9 through 11. And I'm showing the witness. Does this, and as you can see from up here, this is a lapel camera from 1021, a lapel recording from, and do you see this answer here?
Yes, I see it.
And so, does that refresh your recollection that Mr. Baldwin told you that he cocked the gun?
I don't recall that conversation.
Okay. But you don't dispute that it happened?
No, I don't dispute it. I just don't recall it.
So, did... but when you made the request...
Objection, let's approach.
Okay, another sidebar as the attorneys approach the bench. Kelly Hyman with us here in Los Angeles. And Kelly, the defense has been very aggressive out of the gate, even in the pretrial motion hearings. What's your overall take on Alec Baldwin's representation, what we're watching here talent-wise in the courtroom?
He is a zealous advocate for his client. I mean, we can start with his opening statements. It was very compelling. He told a story. He talked about him being an actor and what an actor role was. And an actor's role was not to look at the gun or to check on the gun as well. And so he is zealously advocating for his clients. And that's what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to do is poke holes at the evidence and create reasonable doubt. Because if in fact there's reasonable doubt in the eyes of the juries, then they cannot find Baldwin guilty of the crimes.
What's your take on the condition of the weapon that was tested by the FBI and basically destroyed during that testing process? The defense used that in pretrial motions to try to get the case thrown out because they didn't get a chance to test it. It looks like the sidebar is breaking up here, so I guess we'll leave that. But does the weapon matter, the condition of the weapon and that test, real quickly, Kelly?
It does definitely matter, because the fact that they weren't able to test it in the way in which it was, and so that could create reasonable doubt, absolutely, that there were some issues. We have to remember that Baldwin said that he did not pull the trigger, and so that goes to the point that the gun was defective. So it's definitely key for both sides of this case.
All right, sidebar breaking up. Let's go back in live.
Side of the church or on the cart?
On the cart.
And another question is, do you know if Mr. Baldwin's fingerprints or DNA were on the trigger of the firearm?
I do not know those results off the top of my head.
Okay. Is there a better witness that may come in to tell the jury that?
Yes.
Okay. And you were interacting, as we were left off, with Mr. Baldwin at the scene and spoke to him, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And after speaking to him, did you in fact test the hammer of the, did you in fact request to test the hammer of the firearm for prints and DNA?
Same objection. That doesn't lay the foundation. It has to go to why she did what she did.
It's the first question, and then I'll ask why she did or didn't.
Overruled.
Did you, after speaking to Mr. Baldwin, did you then test the hammer of the gun for DNA or fingerprints, or request that it be done?
The request that was made was after a conversation with the lab, which essentially was asking them what assistance they could provide. I believe the request was made for latents and DNA. I don't recall the specifics of what on the item they were going to specifically test. I don't know their requirements or standards when they receive a firearm. Most labs would do the testing on the entirety of the gun, but they might break it down further and do just the trigger, just the hammer, just the rough areas. I'm not certain. That's a question for their lab.
Right, but I'm just asking you, Investigator Papa, when you made the request, did you specify, given what we've learned now, we really want you to check the hammer specifically? Did you make that request?
I don't recall specifically requesting that.
And when you got to the prop cart, you could not tell from looking at it whether or not anybody had altered or moved any of the evidence, correct?
Correct.
And if somebody did, that would be a pretty serious problem in a case like this, wouldn't it?
It would be a problem in any case, yes.
Did you ever interview or review any interviews of Sarah Zachary?
No.
But one thing that you did know at this time, for certain, is that you were looking for Starline brass, silver .45 ammunition, correct?
At that time, no, we did not know that that's what we were looking for.
When did you learn that?
That was learned later on once realizing that all of our suspected live rounds were Starline brass with a silver primer.
So all of the live rounds at the movie set were Starline brass, nickel primer, live, right?
Yes.
And this idea came up early in the investigation that what if somebody sabotaged the set and put those live rounds there? Do you recall that?
Yes.
And that was quickly dismissed in this case as not something that law enforcement thought to be realistic. Fair?
Yes.
But you also needed to investigate whether somebody from outside of the Rust set was responsible for injecting these live ammunition into the Rust set. Fair?
Yes.
And so you continue to investigate that as this case proceeds, and you executed search warrants, correct?
Not myself personally investigating it, but I believe that was something that was being investigated.
So, we looked at, and I'm just going to show you Defense A1. And what's this a picture of?
These were some of the rounds that were located loose on top of the cart.
And these live rounds being loose on top of the cart, I mean, you don't know whether those live rounds were there at the time of the incident, right?
Correct.
And again, these were all Starline brass, nickel primer, live, correct?
Yes.
And you were also not certain at times when you would collect rounds whether or not they were live or dummies.
Correct.
Some rounds you submitted to the FBI to process to figure that out.
Yes.
And if we could look at State's Exhibit 27, can you tell me what that is?
This is a photograph of the silver primers on the 2 rounds that were later discovered to be live that were on the top of the cart.
And so in this box you then collect, which is Defense A2. Right, what was your understanding of this box?
My understanding was this was the box handed to Lieutenant Benavidez that was being pulled from at the time to load the firearm. It was then placed in his unit and later collected by myself.
And when you looked inside of that box, State's Exhibit 17, what did you find?
These were the rounds inside of the box.
And can you tell the jury the significance of that round?
Yes, this round with the silver primer was a live round.
But you don't know whether somebody was rifling through this box and just missed one, do you?
No.
And you also showed the jury that these Starline brass nickel live rounds were found in other places on the set, right? This is State's Exhibit 16.
Yes.
And what is this?
This is a close-up of one of the gun holsters that has a live round in it.
Okay. And State's Exhibit 15.
This is a close-up of the gun holster that was belonging to Mr. Baldwin that has a live round in it.
And was then 15, this is 15. Was 16 the one that was the other actor, Jason Eccles?
Yes.
Okay. And so Mr. Eccles, another actor on the set, turns out that he, as he acted, as he performed, had a live bullet in his bandolier, correct?
Yes.
And you have no reason to think Mr. Eccles had any idea that was there, right?
Correct.
Your working theory, as you evaluated the ammunition and looked at the similarity between the Starline nickel live and the Starline nickel dummies, is that they could have been easily commingled. Fair?
Yes.
In other words, somebody could have mistaken one for the other, right?
Yes.
And so when you conduct then a search warrant on the church, you find additional evidence, right?
Yes.
And you talked about search warrants in your direct examination, but I just want to orient the jury a little bit to what that is. A search warrant is where you go to a court and you swear out a warrant, and the warrant tells you what you can search for inside of a dwelling or a location, right?
Yes.
And you tell the court what information you have and what you'd like to look for. Fair enough?
Yes.
And unlike somebody sort of, walking into the precinct and voluntarily giving you evidence, one of the things about a search warrant is you don't have to tell the person you're coming before you go, right?
Yes.
So as you're going in to execute the search warrant on the church, and the warrants in this case, you did discuss that with Corporal Hancock, correct?
Yes, I believe we had some brief conversations about the search warrants.
And the warrant for the church, it didn't indicate that there was any specific crime you were looking for. Is that fair?
I don't recall.
And so when you went inside of the church, you were looking for evidence, right?
Yes.
And you remember, as you ended your direct examination yesterday, Ms. Morrissey, the prosecutor, said, you keep all of this evidence so that if anybody wants to bring any evidence, you have it, right?
Yes.
Okay, and one of the things you found in the church was the shot list for the dead, right?
I don't recall that.
Do you recall collecting paperwork inside the church?
Yes.
Okay.
Your Honor, I've already indicated to Mr. Spiro that I object to some of these, so we can approach now. I wish we had dealt with it previously.
No, I think I can just lay it and introduce it.
Well, she said she objected.
Okay.
Okay, let's slip at a commercial break while they're at sidebar, and then we'll head right back into the courtroom right after this. Stay with us.
A-list actor Alec Baldwin is cast in the real-life role he never wanted.
I turn and come because the gun goes off.
Criminal defendant.
The Alec Baldwin manslaughter trial. Live coverage today, only on Court TV. 8 hours of back-to-back true crime cases every Saturday.
This is crazy.
On America's original true crime obsession. 48 hours on Court TV. Saturday starting at 4/3 Central on Court TV.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Ted Rollins outside the courthouse in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where Alec Baldwin is sitting at the defense table in day 2 of testimony. There's a sidebar that was enacted right before we went to break, and they're still at sidebar. This is a long one. Kelly Hyman's with us. She's in Miami, Florida. Kelly, these sidebars, and we knew this was going to happen because the judge likes to deal with objections at sidebar, and she said that before this trial started. And the defense said, hey, this is going to really make this herky-jerky. Does this affect, I mean, jurors get frustrated, obviously, but do they blame anybody? Typically, are they going to blame the prosecution, the defense, the judge, or is it just one of those inconveniences the jurors have to deal with?
It depends on the jurors and depends on how they perceive it. So if their perception is, yes, I'm sitting here, this is kind of wasting my time, what am I doing? It's kind of annoying. Why is this person making this objection? Why is this taking so long? Then it could definitely impact them. I mean, jurors are human beings. Trials are like theater, and they're watching everything. They're seeing how the attorneys interact with one another. They're seeing how the judge reacts to stuff. But it's smart of the judge to deal with these in real time, so then that way they can be dealt with. But yes, potentially it creates an issue for a juror. One juror might say, this is really inconvenient, I don't understand this. And another juror could say, no, that's just part of the legal process and the trial that they have, if they want to fight over certain things.
One thing it absolutely does is it allows jurors to sort of look around the courtroom, and especially after the first couple days, they have that, the first day they're locked in, they're nervous too. But I suspect that all of these jurors are very well aware of Alec Baldwin's following, his brother, Stephen, his wife, Hilaria, in the gallery, sister, and also Gloria Allred, front and center, right behind the prosecution table. If they haven't already figured out that this is a celebrity trial with a lot of interest, they sure do now. Just scanning that courtroom, it's also packed with journalists. All right, sidebar, we're breaking up. Let's head back into the courtroom and pick up the cross-examination of Marissa Popple, the crime scene tech from the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office.
All rise for the jury.
Okay, this is turned into an extended break because obviously they didn't come to a conclusion at sidebar, so they're sending the jury out of the courtroom because it was getting to that level of where it was getting a bit uncomfortable. Alec Baldwin, you see, standing up as the jury exits the courtroom. And Kelly, sometimes you need more time to hash out an issue if all sides are not in agreement. And in a case like this, best to alleviate that tension and send the jury out of the room.
Give them a break. It's a perfect timing to give them an opportunity to take a break. And so it's always interesting of what exactly are they sidebarring? What exactly is the issue that's being discussed? Is the issue where the state feels that these questions that they're asking, that this person that's testifying doesn't have knowledge beyond this, it's outside of their scope, that they should be answering these questions, and relevancy definitely could play a role. From the state's standpoint, from the defendant's standpoint, they're trying to prove a point. Maybe it's a point that there was mistakes that were made, there was something wrong with the evidence or the affidavit. One of the big arguments by the defendants is the fact that there was a lot of errors in this case. So I could definitely see them going down that road and really want to poke holes and stuff and try and say that this was messed up, that the state messed up in regards to evidence or the way in which they handle things, to poke holes so that there's reasonable doubt.
All right, just lost Kelly Hyman there. We'll try to reestablish that. One of the big questions, of course, is that the jury has to answer. It's really the only question, and that is, do the rules of gun safety, that you don't point a gun at anybody and pull the trigger, regardless of whether you have checked it or think it's loaded or unloaded. Do those rules affect a movie set? Is this different because this is a movie set, because Alec Baldwin's an actor, because this is make-believe, and because you have an armorer, you have a first assistant director, and David Hall, you have that ammunition. It would almost be like a regular citizen walking around with a personal assistant that is only in their life to check the weapon. If that's in place, which is in place on a movie set, is Alec Baldwin immune from these basic gun safety rules? That's what the jury has to answer. Since we're on an extended break here, why don't we do this? If you missed some of yesterday's testimony, let's take a look back, because yesterday, of course, was day one of testimony, including those opening statements. So go back, take a listen to the highlights from yesterday.
The evidence will show that someone who played make-believe with a real gun and violated the cardinal rules of firearm safety is the defendant, Alexander Baldwin. You will hear over the course of the next few days that in the fall of 2021, a movie called Rust began filming at the Bonanza Creek Ranch just south of Santa Fe.
This workplace was on a tight budget. And you will learn that some of the people who were hired to work at this workplace were very inexperienced. And one of those was the armorer, a very young woman named Hannah Gutierrez Reed. You will also see evidence, ladies and gentlemen, that during the days before that fateful October 21st day, the defendant handled this firearm multiple occasions. Each time the defendant handled this firearm, he did not do a safety check with that inexperienced armorer. And you'll hear that the reason he didn't do a safety check is because he didn't want to offend her. The evidence you will see will paint a real-life picture of a real-life workplace where this defendant mishandled this gun. And the evidence will show that third and fatal time, he takes it out once again, hammer's cocked, he cocks the hammer, points it straight at Ms. Hutchins, and fires that gun.
This was an unspeakable tragedy, but Alec Baldwin committed no crime. He was an actor acting, playing the role of Harlan Rust. An actor playing a character can act in ways that are lethal, that just aren't lethal on a movie set. These cardinal rules, they're not cardinal rules on a movie set. And I don't have to tell you much more about this because you've all seen gunfights in movies.
All right, as part of the opening statements, we're going to get a break in right now. When we come back, we'll be talking with Gloria Allred, who is always here for the victims. And that is the case here. We'll talk to Gloria and then get you back into the courtroom after the break, after this.